I'm Dr. Patrice Berry, licensed clinical psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. So I saw this story, I think sometime last week, and the trial was supposed to start for the woman involved. Her name is Lisa Necrelli, and she recently got a plea deal for what you'll see happens in this video. Thank y'all to everyone who is watching live. This story is very troubling. Thankfully, the child was not physically harmed in this. His parents will talk about the emotional damage that was done from this and how he is more leery around strangers and just how this incident has did really scare him. And so that's the trigger warning for because this lady is going to approach the child who is 4 years old, and he's just outside his home. And all of this is caught on camera, and I'm so glad that we have cameras. And we're also going to talk about a second case where a woman in Utah tried to pull down the skirt of someone she believed to be a minor but was actually 19 years old, and she's been charged with assault. And so I want to talk about those two cases today. Thank y'all again for watching. Let's start with this video. I'm only going to play just a portion of it, and we are going to chat.
Trying to lure a little boy while impersonating a child protective services worker is behind bars. The whole thing caught on camera. I'm Anjanette Levy, and thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime. 44-year-old Lisa Necrelli spent the night in jail after she was charged with one count of criminal enticement of a child. Police in Norwood, Ohio, just outside of Cincinnati, said Necrelli was recorded on Saturday afternoon, walking up to a little boy who was sitting on his bike. You can see Necrelli stop and look around. Then she starts talking to the boy. It's difficult to make out exactly what is being said between the two. Necrelli puts her hand on the boy's back and rubs his back as she talks with him. More than a minute into the interaction, she runs her hands through the boy's hair. At one point in the video, the boy appears to say something about his mom and walks toward the house. Necrelli stands staring at that house until the boy comes outside.
What's your name? Tell her. I'm from CPS.
She's from CPS.
Her name is Lisa.
And so, what she's going to do after this is she is going to claim to be from Child Protective Services, and the mom is going to let her in because she says that she's with CPS. Now, please know if a situation like this happens, the social worker is typically not just going to show up and talk to the child. Like that does not happen where somebody shows up and first starts talking with a child out just on the street. And Lisa's going to admit, so I'm going to make myself smaller for this one. I have a second video queued up where yeah, she's going to say that she was drinking all day and that she was concerned for the child and just wanted to scare the parents, which is not at all appropriate. Like, if she was a concerned citizen, she should have went and knocked on the door and said, like, she shouldn't have approached the child if she was concerned about him being outside by himself. And I just I just can't. All right, so let's go on ahead and play this part.
She was following up on a complaint. Necrelli pleaded not guilty to the charge Tuesday in court. In a separate affidavit, she wrote she had been drinking beer all day and saw the little boy alone, and wrote she wanted to scare the.
She was walking to the Kroger to get more beer. And on the walk home, she saw him outside. Now, that part is concerning to me because she's been drinking in the morning, and now she's on her walk to Kroger to get more, and she's concerned about this child. That's just very, very odd, and I'm surprised they didn't maybe try to say that she had, like, an alcohol problem, but maybe she wouldn't let them do that, and I don't know if she does, like, I don't know. This was a one-time incident. I don't believe she had a criminal history. I don't think anything like this had happened before, but you just don't walk up to somebody else's child. I will tell you all, I was in the grocery store, I wanna say it was a few months ago, and this older woman, she might have been about 70 years old or so, but she walks up to my child, and she's like, just kinda like 'cause so my six-year-old, he's big, and at that time, he was just riding in the big part of the basket, and she walks up, and she walks like she's going to go, like, "Ha like, pinch him like this, and I was like so I walk in because I see exactly what she's doing. I'm just trying to get some coffee creamer. Like, that's all I'm trying to do, and she's walking up to my child, and she looks like she's about to, like, touch him, and not touch him in like a in a not in a but he's my child, and I did not give her permission to touch him, and so that's where I don't think anyone should be putting their hands on somebody else's child. Like, that's just not right to me, and I'm glad that the little boy was uncomfortable and he went inside. I'm glad that the whole thing was caught on tape because she might have tried to deny, but at that point she comes into the house and says that she's a CPS worker. And those parents were so smart to call to see because I think they called the police after this, and that's when she was and I'm sure they showed them the tape. What do you mean this person isn't actually a CPS worker? And then this started this whole, investigation.
family by pretending to be a social worker. Defense lawyer Jay Clark says the law is there for a reason. There are other more serious charges that can be leveled if their actions become more serious.
You have to be careful to run and say, this should be a felony, this should be a felony, because eventually then that
Oh, sorry.
becomes a distinction without meaning. Everything becomes a felony.
Oh.
This fits in this.
Alright, so she was charged with, I think it was 3 different because they charged her with burglary because she came into the home, like, she said she was a CPS worker and came into the home. She pled guilty to, impersonating an officer, and it will serve 3 years in prison. So that was her plea agreement. She initially attempted to have the charges dropped. She was indicted on charges of burglary, impersonation of a peace officer. So I guess a social worker would be considered a peace officer, and attempted abduction. Those were the things that she was charged with. The burglary and attempted abduction charges were dismissed. So this was just yesterday, on Monday, as a part of a plea deal. So she was initially supposed to have her trial start yesterday, but I guess her lawyer and the prosecution, they all came up with this plea deal. She will have to serve 3 years. But this incident happened in 2023, and the child was just at his home when she walked up to him and then later said that she was a CPS worker, which was not true. All right. I'm coming back to the chat. It was yeah. So, situations like that. So people that wake up in the morning and your first thing is to drink, that would be concerning to me. At minimum, I would say that's problematic use of alcohol. What can sometimes because yeah, she woke up drinking and was leaving to get more. She knew to walk because maybe she wasn't in a good enough space to drive. Thank goodness she didn't drink and drive. But that was just very, very odd to me. All right. So now, um, I thought it was important to cover if somebody if a CPS worker is going to come and talk with a family, they are going to engage with the parents. All right. From a psychological perspective, is it better for the child and family to have a plea deal rather than a trial? If so, in what ways? And there was a chance that she could have gotten off completely. Let me try to see if there was an interview with the parents. I do believe that the parents did. Um, and the parents could sue her civilly for pain and suffering because it's my understanding that the child still struggles with strangers. And so there is a chance that maybe the parents, if they did want to have some type of civil, that they might be able to sue her civilly. They were able to get a restraining order where she can like never have, be within a certain, you know, amount of space for their house, from for their child. And the impersonating an officer. So I don't know. Nobody said like what her job was if she's working. Um that whole thing is just very, very concerning. Oh, I did not see that. So I did not see that she's had many run-ins with the law. So I hadn't seen any of this. So if she's had these types of charges, that would point to a more chronic, possibly a more chronic drinking problem, if um, if that is the case. A trial can be difficult on a child, but the thing is they might have been able to keep the child from having to testify at all because they had the video, and then also she because she's on video saying that she's a CPS worker. So I don't know what I think her defense was just, I was trying to scare him, and she was facing many, many more years. So I think she benefited the most from the plea deal. Um, and maybe the prosecution, I don't know. Plea deals are really common, I think. Um, I think plea deals are pretty common. It definitely happens. And let me see if this one talks with the family. Let's see. Commercials. We don't like commercials. All right. I think I can mute it. Can I mute it? All right. We might have to. Let me go back to YouTube. Let's see if we can find it on YouTube. Lisa Necrelli. That was 5 days. Let's sort this by upload date. And that was 5 days ago, 1 day ago. Okay, so I don't know that there's been a video update from that part of the case. For the next case we're going to talk about, it is out of Utah. A woman, my understanding of the situation, a woman sees uh, a 10-year-old boy, and the 10-year-old boy points to supposedly. So this is all from the defendant, and people are calling her Utah Karen. This is all from, and this was all videotaped by the victim in this case, by her. I think one of her friends recorded the video that ended up going viral. But what happened is this lady just walks up to a 19-year-old and starts talking about that she's dressed inappropriately, and she actually like grabs the girl's skirt to pull it down. And what she's saying is she thought the girl was like a minor, and she threatened, so the woman in this case threatens to call CPS on her, which is like, what? I don't even know. So but we're going to watch it and talk about it.
Online after she allegedly pulled down a young woman's skirt that she said was too short. What? We're breaking down the situation and the consequences with trial attorney Brian Claypool. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse
I'm
Weber.
going to skip forward a little bit.
Now, according to police, Ida Ann Lorenzo is facing a charge of sexual battery for her conduct. What happened? Well, let's get into it. So there is this video of this argument at a Japanese steakhouse taking place on Saturday, April 20th, and it was filmed by the teen's friend and cut together for TikTok. Right now, it has been viewed on the site more than 8 million times. Take a look.
I happen to work for the state, and if I have to watch your cheeks hanging out again, I will call CPS.
Do it.
So,
Yeah, go for it right now.
She's over 18.
She is 19 years old.
Her butt cheeks.
You don't get to touch
We're all
her.
sitting over
You
there.
don't get to touch her.
Yeah, I
You
know.
can't come up and talk to her. You do not get to touch her.
Really?
We would love for you to call the police. Go ahead and call the police. Why are you? So why are you?
Okay, so let's break this down. According to the reported 19-year-old and her friends, before the video starts, Lorenzo had physically tugged down on the woman's skirt, which was considered by her to be too short. The friend who took the video posted a follow-up video.
And she comes up to my friend and she reaches under her skirt, yanks it down, and then squeezes her sides because she's wearing a crop top. And it's like, you're probably underage. You probably shouldn't be wearing that. Would you just imply that you think she's a minor and you just assaulted her?
The statement of probable cause in Lorenzo's court case says that Lorenzo herself actually reported the incident. Quote, Ida approached the woman and pulled her skirt down and told her to be aware of what she was showing, especially with small kids around. This caused all the people with her to accuse Ida of sexually assaulting the female. Lorenzo reported that the girl had her skirt hiked up above her private area and that everything was exposed to people in the restaurant because she wasn't wearing any underwear. Then, after the video was posted and started going viral, Lorenzo called 911 again to say that she had been outed online. The probable cause statement noted, quote, Ida stated the subjects involved have posted a video of her along with her name, insinuating this was sexual in nature. She believes that because she is a member of the community and holds a position with the state, that this now is a threat on her life. She was explained to call the non-emergency number. So the following day, Sunday, Lorenzo spoke with a police officer in person, and she reportedly told the officer that she believed that this teen was actually a minor and that she threatened to call child
She's making this worse for herself, okay? Like, she is making this so much worse for herself. So much worse.
protective services to file an indecent exposure report. The officer wrote in his report, quote, Ida stated that a 10-year-old boy near her that she had no relation to pointed at the female's clothing and the boy's father did not do anything about it. Ida felt that it was her responsibility to address the female by approaching her.
And so if that's true, if there was a younger boy that was sitting there with his dad and he's like, "Ooh, look at her." And the dad's like, "What?" And the dad minded his business. She then takes it on her to, like, now she has to protect the, like, innocence of this other child. And I feel like this is similar to things that people say about, I don't know, but like the lawyer that he's gonna interview, because we're not gonna play that part, but he lives in a community where during the summer, people wear bathing suits to dining restaurants. Or to me, if she had an issue with how she was dressed, she had no right to put her hands on her, to even, like, she doesn't get to police how other people are dressed.
And attempted to pull down the female's skirt to cover what Ida explained to be exposed genitalia. Ida said that the female ignored her, so Ida threatened to contact CPS to file a report against the indecent exposure she had committed against the 10-year-old.
So, uh, and And so she's assuming that there was indecent exposure to the 10-year-old. But, like, the fact that she could just pull down, like, somebody's clothes and think that that is okay, because the victim in this case, the girl who was wearing a skirt and a crop top, she says that, like, it wasn't just her skirt, and it would make sense that if somebody went to, like, grab somebody's skirt, that their hand might come in contact with their actual body. That is what she is saying happened.
Ida told me that she assumed the young female she had approached to be a minor as well. I asked her why she thought it was appropriate to touch another person and how she thought that to protect a minor would mean to touch another assumed minor.
So, like, this officer is okay, so you thought she was a minor, and to protect another kid, you're gonna walk up and touch another child? Like, none of this makes any sense.
Minor. Ida's response was that she never touched the female and that she had only touched the female's.
But I think what she doesn't know, I guess the law in Utah is you don't have to make contact with the person's actual body, that just touching her clothes in that general area can be considered SA, can be considered an assault.
Skirt. I explained to Ida that she still had engaged in criminal behavior by touching the female's clothing and that her behavior was not appropriate. I asked her why she did not call the police, and she told me that it would have taken the police too long to respond, so she had to take action herself. Ida told me that the female and her group of friends filmed a portion of the incident and posted the video to multiple social media platforms with the tagline of being a Karen. And then we go.
Of course they did. Of course they did. And so I felt like this was a nice with the other video that we talked about. I do not know how she thought that was going to explain or defend her actions. I believe the person, because they're going to cover it towards the end of this video, she actually works for the I think the state prosecutor's office, like the state attorney. She works for the state attorney. And so I think she thought she was walking in with her credentials and her like I don't know, like I don't know, but what she did was not okay. It was you don't have the right to walk up to a stranger and touch their clothing, especially in like a private, but it doesn't matter. Like you don't get to walk up to people and do that at all. Like I do not know how she thought that assuming the person was a child would make it even any better. I do not understand any of this. She was initially going to go on Law and Crime to do an interview with them, but on the advice of her lawyer, her lawyer was probably like, "Ma'am, you have said too much." Like her lawyer recommended that she not do that, and she canceled with Law and Crime and did not. She's not doing any interviews. The state attorney's office said that they were aware of the situation. Was that towards the end of this? Where did they talk about that part? Let me see if I can find that part. Okay, here we go. So I'll play this part.
Videos on social media seem to suggest that Lorenzo worked for or with the Utah Attorney General's office. We reached out to them. They neither confirmed nor denied that, saying in a
Okay.
statement, "We are aware of the situation and are following AGO policies and procedures. Miss Lorenzo is not represented by the Utah Attorney General's office. All media and legal responses will need to come personally from her." Now, an initial court appearance.
Okay. So people are trying to find and please don't so I guess people have made assumptions about where she works cuz she's in the video she says that she holds a high position with the state. And so that's what she said in the video. Not exactly sure where she works, which and that's none of my business. Like this part is going to play out. I believe she has court in I want to say June. And so this might be a case where she might get a plea deal. I don't know, but I don't know that she's going to want to admit that she was guilty. She might agree sometimes pleading no contest, but she is going to have like cuz SA is a pretty major offense. Like that might be pretty sure that's a felony in Utah, but I'm going back to the comments. Okay. Oh, like she just her idea of work going in to try to help that was not appropriate. Now what she might have been able to do cuz let's say I'm on a plane and I think somebody has like exposed themselves or something. You can talk to the flight attendant or something. I don't know. Like you can let somebody know your level of comfort. That doesn't always work. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes there are people that are doing inappropriate things. There are people that have exposed themselves. I saw recently a video of a guy in Target that was like caught on video taking pictures of a female from under her skirt. That is, and so what the woman did, she didn't go and like touch him or anything. Like she caught it on video and then she turned over that information to the appropriate authorities. And so it's not on that individual citizen to like fix that type of situation. Wow. A felony conviction can possibly cost her her job. That makes sense. That makes sense. Oy, so much going on in the world. Later today, I am going to be covering the history of racism in medicine and also mental health. We started talking about that a little bit on one of my last streams. My days are all blending together, so I don't remember if that was Saturday. I don't know, but on one of my more recent streams, when we were talking about long-term mental health care and residential, I'm almost positive that was Saturday. So some things came up about that, and I want to share about unconscious bias and the impact that that can have in medicine. And we're specifically going to talk about it from the perspective of race. It can also apply to women. It can apply to a bunch of different situations. It can apply to people that are lower income. Sometimes the doctors and staff will have bias. And so there are lots of different types of bias. We're specifically going to talk about racial bias during that conversation. Anytime I talk about these things, please know I come from a perspective that is rooted in anti racism. So it's not enough to be not racist, like, it's about being anti racist, actively working against certain ideologies and being aware of bias. It's incredibly important. And in psychology, in medicine, there is documented harm that has happened. But then I'm not so far where like that mayor in Dalton who is trying to say like y'all are going against me because I'm black. Oh no, 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 no. Like people literally want to know where the money is. Or there was a judge, I think in Atlanta, Georgia or something, who was African American, who was trying to do like bad behaviors and hide behind race. And that is very, very problematic. And so I like that is not okay. And so definitely want to talk about this. And I talk about it from that balanced perspective. So I think somebody can do something or have an idea and not have, because I think we think that like a person that is doing something that, and because I guess racist is just such, so that's where sometimes we talk about bias because some people are more comfortable with that word. They'll admit that yes, I have bias, but it's a bias that like undermines a particular race, and so okay. But that's the conversation that we'll be having. I always talk about these things from a let's learn, and it's never in a way to like put anyone down. It's for us to grow. I think having conversations like this, it can be really helpful. When I was in graduate school, I had it just so happened to be a European American roommate. I had never had a white roommate before, and she had never had a black roommate. And one day we were just talking, and she asked me, she was like, "Why don't you wash your hair every day?" And I was like, "Oh, my hair is naturally dry. If I washed it, like the texture of my hair, if I washed it every day, it would get brittle and like it could like that damages my hair to wash it every day." And her hair is naturally oily. So she has to wash it every day. And then I asked her, I was like, "Why do you go to tanning booths?" Like, I don't like I don't understand the whole tanning booth. And she was like, "Oh, it's because I burn really easily. So if I go and tan first, that helps me be able to not burn." And it was like, that makes sense. And so I think through conversation, that's how we can understand, that's how we can hold space for other people, for other ideas. I ask that people respect my ideas, and I'll have to say it again. But because I'm speaking from my perspective, and we don't have to agree, but for people to make sure that they put like the I think versus like their thing is like a fact. And communication, because to me, what bias is rooted in is it's rooted in fear and a lack of information. Because race is a social construct. Like, while I identify as an African American, I might have more in common genetically with somebody that's from Europe because I'm 20% British. Like versus somebody that might look like me genetically, we might not have as much in common. But identity is important to me, and I'm glad that we're able to have these conversations, and that we take them from an open perspective. That's all I ask. So thank y'all for joining me. I hope y'all enjoy your day. I'll be back live in about 2.5 hours at 6 p.m. Eastern. Y'all have a good one. Bye.